report and the huge public interest in these issues, the police have decided it would not be appropriate or proportionate to go ahead with the application to strike out those claims. So that news just coming in from the Metropolitan Police Service. Now, how much do immigrants cost the UK economy? A report last year said that people coming into the UK make a positive contribution, but today a think tank has published a rebuttal saying they drain billions from public finances. Migration Watch UK claims the public purse was £140 billion worse off between 1995 and 2011 as a result of people moving to Britain. But researchers at University College London are standing by their research, which says the UK Exchequer benefited to the tune of £25 billion between 2001 and 2011, thanks to the net contribution of immigration. Well, just a short while ago, I spoke to Tommaso Frattini, Assistant Professor in Economics at the University of Milan and co-author of the report by the Centre for Research and Analysis of Migration at UCL. He gave me his reaction to today's claim by Migration Watch UK.
Well, we were surprised by the Migration Watch report, not only because we were not anticipated that, but also because we think that their criticism are based on misinterpretation of what we do, or they take up again criticism that we have already responded to in the past and then shown not to alter our main conclusions.
You've always talked about a positive contribution from immigration. Does this torpedo that claim? Because they're talking about the cost of the public purse of £140 billion.
Well, you know, over the period that we're looking at, the UK has been running a budget deficit. So even natives have UK natives have contributed 90% of what they in taxes than what they received in state services. So it is not surprising that immigration as a whole has been, immigrants as a whole made a negative fiscal contribution to the UK public purse. What we point out is that those immigrants who came since 2000, and in particular those who came from European countries, made a substantially positive fiscal contribution, which is surprising given that the country has been running a budget deficit over these years.
That's the element they contest. They talk about you using unrealistic assumptions, highly misleading figures, averaging out what immigrants earn. What do you say to those criticisms?
Well, I think they are unfounded. Our assumptions are not unrealistic, and the figures that we use for our estimates are based on official Office for National Statistics data. So we reject these accusations.
And in terms of the broader criticism, that aside from the economics, immigration has led to overcrowding on this island. That's what they say. They talk about schools, pressure on health services. Do you acknowledge that side of things?
Well, I mean, we acknowledge the fact that if immigrants have children, they go to school, and therefore they impose a cost on the educational system, of course, and this is taken into account in our analysis. However, it is likely that this cost is below the average cost because the schools are already in place and they just need to host extra children.
Tommaso Frattini responding to that report from Migration Watch UK. With me now is Alp Mehmet, the Vice Chairman of that group, Migration Watch UK. Thank you so much for coming in. It is quite a claim, a cost to the public purse of £140 billion. How do you get to that figure?
We looked at it extremely carefully. First of all, the report is some 60 pages long. What Professor Frattini has said, there's a lot of truth in it. I don't deny that. But what we found was that, first of all, in their report, the original report, they themselves acknowledged that there was a £96 billion deficit between 1995 and 2011. We think that's an underestimate. And we have explained very carefully why we think that's an underestimate. Where they've made assumptions, they've simply made the wrong ones.
When you say that, what specifically have they assumed that you think is incorrect?
Well, for example, means-tested benefits. If you earn low wages, if you have a low income, your benefits are that much higher. If, for example, you live in London, the benefits that you get, housing benefit you get, is that much higher. They did not take sufficient account of these sort of disparities and differences in income, in tax paid, council tax paid, self-employed tax paid. All this, they professed to use very robust examples. We found that far from robust examples, they were very weak examples, and that's how we arrived at these figures.
What is the public, do you think, to make of this? I mean, that group that we were just hearing about, talking about it benefiting the country by 25 billion, you saying actually it's cost 140 billion. I suspect a lot of people watching just are left not quite knowing what to believe.
Believe us is all I can say. Of course, there are always going to be differences of view, but this is more than that. What we heard, Nick Robinson's report not so long ago on the truth about immigration, he ended with something like, it's either high immigration or we're all going to be worse off. That is clearly a false choice. We do have a choice. We want to see immigration. We just want to see lower immigration. There is a cost to mass migration.
OK, there we have to leave it out, Mehmet. Thanks very much for coming in. Thank you.
In a moment, we'll have a summary of all the day's business news, but first, the headlines.